Hey, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. My name's Nick, and I make videos about things that I like. Today, that's a follow-up to a video I did about a month ago focusing on cozy games that aren't farming. So make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, and after you're done with all that, let's get into the video. Our first game is Fishbowl. Now, before we get into the game itself, I should note that this is a demo, so the full game isn't out yet. And that being said, from what I've seen here in the demo, I'm very optimistic about the potential on display here. In Fishbowl, you're a young woman who has just moved away from home and started a new job as a video editor. The game opens with a phone call to your mother, which helps you get some of the initial exposition and character building out of the way pretty efficiently. You then arrive home to find that you have a package waiting. You open it and find a bunch of things from your recently deceased grandma, as well as a toy you don't recognize. You take everything out and find a place for this intriguing little fish toy. Then, after putting it away, you have a little bit of editing left to do. You then play a fun little rhythm game where you speed through an edit, which basically just involves matching the clip with the right layer on your timeline and hitting enter as fast as you can. It's a pretty engaging little minigame, at least for the time that it lasts for. It's an interesting way to visualize and gamify editing, and I actually think they did a pretty good job giving you the feeling of enter and flow, but also making sure you feel like you have a bit of a time crunch and adding just a little bit of stress. During this editing minigame, you're talking with a coworker, and they give you some more exposition and let your character know that the office is going to be switching to work from home for a while. The character you're talking to is very much coded to be Japanese, and in my opinion, they're a really great character. The devs don't lean on more troubling stereotypes to characterize them, instead giving them their own unique personality, which I'm sure they'll expand on much more over the course of the final game. And I think this is one of the game's strong points, characterization, which is a good thing because from what the demo is demonstrating, there isn't much in the way of mechanics outside of maybe some quick little mini games like the editing one. But the fact that it does have good characterization and seemingly a good story is a really good sign. Indie games like this one, which are telling a personal story, presumably roughly based on the lives of the devs, really shine in their storytelling. There aren't many gameplay mechanics that are yet to be discovered, at least not any that I can think of, though I certainly don't think that means indies should stop searching. But because most mechanics are at the more mature stage of development, it's kinda hard to innovate when it comes to that specifically. So, games like this one really hinge on the characters and the polish of the game overall. It's somewhat more acceptable to audiences if your game is a bit janky, if you're innovating in some visible way. But if they can't see the way that you're breaking new ground, or you just aren't, then you need to make sure that your game is much more polished than the competition. And from what I can gather from this demo, that definitely seems to be the case. The animations are well done, all the background and character art has this really lovely pixel aesthetic, and the main focus, the story, absolutely seems to be going somewhere. I would say this game will be similar to something like Little Gator Game or Venba. It's a really personal story that I'm sure most of you will absolutely bawl your eyes out with. I don't want to get too much into what the story is going to be about, but the demo makes it very clear, very quick, that the main character lost their grandma, and the game will be about dealing with the grief of that loss. If that's not something that you're in the headspace for, maybe you're still dealing with the grief of losing a loved one, then I would say maybe add this to your wish list, but hold off for a while. For those of you who do think you're ready for that kind of a story, I'm confident this won't disappoint. Though I am just basing this off the demo, so you may have to just wait and see if I do a video on it in the future when it finally does release soon. But a game you don't have to wait at all for is our next title. Dorfromantik is a super chill strategy game about building out little countryside villages. The basic premise of the game is that you have to strategically place these hexagonal tiles, which are randomly generated, so they fit together in a way that makes sense. You get quests to complete different objectives, like attaching 3 forest tiles together, and if you complete them, you get more tiles so that you can keep playing. Once you're out of tiles, though, the game is over, and you start over with a new starting set and repeat that loop. The game is extremely simple on its face, though don't be fooled. It actually does take some strategic thinking, though fortunately there isn't a time limit, nor any harsh punishments for poor tile placement. But if you don't pay attention to where you're placing your tiles, you'll have a much shorter turn than you would if you really learn the ins and outs of the game. Though you also don't have to do that if that's not really your speed. And given the fact that you clicked on this video about cozy games, I suspect that's probably not what you're looking for. So, fortunately for you and me, there's also a creative mode which not only allows you to build totally unimpeded by the threat of running out of tiles, but also gives you the ability to match tiles, randomly generate the top tile, and delete tiles. This is the part of the game that I think I would spend most of my time in. It's really chill, just hanging out and placing tiles to make really interesting and creative countryside landscapes. Some of the things the devs show on the game's website are really interesting, and it seems like you can get a lot of creative latitude in creative mode, which is a good thing for a mode that's literally named creative. I really don't have anything to complain about with this game. The only things I think I would have to say are totally nullified by the inclusion of creative mode. I'm not the most competitive person, and I find that competition and being the best don't really motivate me as much as having a good time and existing in a world that is a joy to be in. And this is absolutely that. Everything about this game, from the art style to the music, shows just how much these devs care about a chill time and cozy vibes. And if you or a loved one aren't super into the idea of this as a video game, might I interest you in the physical tabletop board game? That's right, this video game has an accompanying board game, which is just one of the coolest things that I think I've seen in gaming in a while. I don't know which came first, and I don't really care. I just love that no matter how you like your games, these devs have made sure that there's a way to play it. And I think that's really cool. The only thing left, I guess, would be a mobile port, which could honestly be really awesome. Speaking of uniquely chill and laid-back games, though, let's swim on over to our next game. Webfishing is essentially a little chat room themed around fishing. That's really it. You hop onto other people's servers or make your own and go fishing, selling the fish you catch so that you can buy upgrades and cosmetics, and just talking to other people in the lobby. It's a pretty cool little idea, and the vibes are certainly there. The audio's nice, and the scenery reminds me a little bit of something like PS2 style graphics, clearly three-dimensional, but very pixelated, and I'm all here for that. Setting aside the chat room part for now, though, the fishing does leave perhaps a little bit to be desired. I think if you were to buy this game for the fishing mechanics, you might be a bit disappointed. There is progression and different ways that you can mix up the experience, but there isn't much challenge or skill involved, so if you want that from your fishing games, this may be a bit lacking. However, I think if you're disappointed by that aspect of this game, it's kind of on you. I mean, the devs make it very clear on the Steam page that the main focus of the game is the chat room functionality. The fishing really is just something for you to do to keep busy while you talk to other people. And from what I saw, the people on these chat rooms didn't seem too problematic. Now, keep in mind, my experience with the variety of people in these lobbies is rather limited. But from what I saw, people seem to be a pretty chill, pretty wholesome crowd. You have the ability to talk through the world chat or by drawing on the ground. There is no voice chat, which is a good thing in my opinion. Fortunately, there's no way to spend actual real-life dollars in the game store. So you just need to go out and find some fish, maybe talk to other people in your lobby about where some good fishing spots are, you know, extrovert stuff. Me, though, I just kind of walked around, lurked on the world chat, and caught some fish. Now, being totally honest, I didn't find the game particularly engaging, but like I said, that's totally on me. Social interaction is really the main crux of the game, so if you're like me and you don't really possess the internal motivation to just, like, talk to people for no reason, maybe skip this one. But if you're a bit of a yapper and you feel that you've exhausted the ears of the people in your local area, then this game might actually be a pretty good outlet. Just do be careful, especially if you identify as a woman. These are still gaming spaces, and while it's certainly a cozy game, and as a community we are generally more welcoming to women, it's still a gaming lobby, so do be careful. Though that is mitigated slightly by the totally agendered avatars and the lack of voice chat, so it is a lot easier to have a better time in this than, say, a COD lobby. Even if you're just looking for a kind of chill space to hang out and maybe learn a thing or two about another person or hobby, this is a great place to do it. Sure, you have your trolls and your spammers, just like any chat room, but overall it has a pretty good Animal Crossing-like vibe, with all the characters being these cute little guys, and I do think there's enough there mechanically for the type of gamer who would be drawn to this kind of a game to have a really good time. As with any online chat functionality, if you're going to let your kid play, make sure you're there and paying attention when they do. There aren't any parental controls as far as I can tell, and unlike Kind Worlds 2, there aren't any warnings about chat room etiquette and safety best practices, so be vigilant, and I would say if you feel like you would want to be using parental controls for your kid, maybe skip this one. However, a game you don't need to be of sound mind and body to play is our next one on the list. Dream Setup, as the name implies, is all about building your dream setup. It's clearly intended that you'll build a dream gaming setup, though there's nothing stopping you from building a dream workshop or a dream multimedia setup, or just your dream living room. One of the cool things about this game, though, is the fact that they let you customize the blueprint of the space. So if you wanted to, you could use it as a kind of baby's first CAD program to design the layout of your real-life office or bedroom. Now, as the name Baby's First implies, there isn't much in the way of control, and it's certainly not intended as an actual CAD program. That's just kind of the closest thing I can kind of use to describe it. It is definitely a game. It's not parametric, the camera controls aren't that great, and there is no output whatsoever other than a screenshot. But it would be unfair to talk about this game as a legit comparison to a CAD program. That would be ridiculous. Like I said, it's a game, and it's really intended for you to chill out and have a fun time imagining your dream space if money and space was no object. As for that, I think it's pretty good. I do have my complaints, but we'll get to those in a minute. For now, let's talk about what I do like. For one, like I mentioned, the ability to plan the layout of the room is really cool, and I think it gives the game some real tangible value because it lets you get more creative and custom than you could if you were just limited to a simple box. And after you pick the footprint of your space, you're able to pick from a frankly astonishingly huge list of decor and equipment. You have plenty of options to choose from, and I really do think there is something on here for everyone. And no matter what kind of space you're looking to make, I think you can make a pretty good approximation of it with the tools available to you. You even get to change the color of pretty much every part of the things that you place down. Say you want the fans in your computer to look like Noctuas, you can absolutely do that. Or maybe you want your TV bezel not to just be the same boring black as everyone else's, no problem. The amount of choice that you get is really quite cool, and you're given pretty much all the creative freedom that you could want. You can even input hex codes for specific colors if you want to hop on over to Adobe Color and find a color scheme that suits your vibe. So with all those positives, what could I possibly say about this game that's negative? What could possibly be so wrong with it? Well, it's not really anything too serious, and for me, I don't think that it's really a deal breaker. Oh, jeez Louise. So with all those positives, what could I possibly say about this game that's negative? What could possibly be so wrong with it? Well, it's really not anything too serious, and for me, I don't think anything in it is really a deal breaker. The biggest thing that I have issue with is the models. Don't get me wrong, they work and certainly have enough personality to separate them from one another and allow you to create a vibe and not just like a generic layout, but they do just feel a bit too asset flippy. They don't feel bespoke to the game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, making a game is hard, and you might not want to spend a ton of time making thousands of different objects, and that's totally cool. I just felt like there were a lot of things, but not many that I would actually want to have in my dream space. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit too eccentric, and maybe I'm asking for too much, but I just wish there was a bit more personality in the objects that you have to choose from. Aside from that, the only other thing that I would take issue with is the camera. It's functional, but needs improvement. I like that they let you move around freely with WASD and the mouse, but it did always feel like I was struggling a bit to find the angle that I needed to really see the space right. Though, one thing I will say is that I love how all the walls will dynamically hide depending on where your camera is, so you don't get a situation where the wall obscures your view. So that's really nice. I don't know. Overall, I think the game is good, and if it looks like something that you would be interested in, and you know you're the kind of person who can just get absolutely sucked into the task of interior decoration, I think this game is going to be great. They give you all the freedom that you need to really make it yours, and then some. But if you're the kind of gamer who needs motivation and a reason to play a game outside of the gameplay itself, this game may be one to skip. However, if that is you, this next game is one you're definitely not going to want to skip. The Outer Wilds is probably the most well-known and mainstream game on this list. It was released in 2019 by Mobius Digital and Annapurna Interactive, and the people who played it absolutely loved it. It won the BAFTA Game Award for the best game, and absolutely deserves it. This, as I always try to do, is spoiler-free, so I won't be getting into the meat of what makes the story so intriguing, because the twists really are worth discovering with fresh eyes, so rest assured it won't disappoint. As for the rest of the game, though, basically you're an alien astronaut who sets out to explore your solar system and find out the answers to the mysteries that lay beyond the horizon. Little do you know, going into your expedition, however, that your solar system is stuck in a time loop, with you at the center. Every 22 minutes, your sun goes supernova and destroys the solar system, taking you with it. So you need to figure out how to escape the time loop and also hopefully figure out a way to save your solar system. You do that through exploring all the little planets with your ship, and that is where one of the really cool parts of this game comes in. The way they make you navigate the solar system and kind of explore everything and truly discover things. Now, this game takes a decidedly more realistic approach than something like Super Mario Galaxy, making you adjust your velocity and bearing to successfully land your craft on other planets without simply bouncing off or destroying the ship in the process. After you get the hang of the spacefaring aspect, though, you can then turn your attention to the puzzle aspect, because yes, this is a puzzle game. While on the surface it may seem like another space exploration and space fantasy fulfillment, and it is in a way that, but it's mostly a puzzle game about unraveling the mysteries of this time loop and the ancient civilization that's left ruins all over the planets that you visit. This game does pretty much every aspect with an extremely high level of polish and expertise. And I mean, that's no surprise coming from the folks over at Annapurna, though it's still absolutely worth commending. But what they did better than perhaps any other game that I've played, puzzle games included, was the way that they make you feel a sense of mystery and existential wonder about the universe and your place in it. I won't go into too much detail, but if you're not planning to play it and you want a really great breakdown of what I'm talking about, I'll link Rasputin's video about just that. Though, be warned, it's absolutely not spoiler-free, so I recommend you play the game first, then go watch it. But I promise you won't be disappointed if you take the time to hear this game out. The places you'll go are unlike most other game experiences that you can have, and if there is one game that I would recommend for the existentially obsessed, puzzle-minded gamer, this is it. I don't want to spend too much of your time extolling the virtues of this game, though. If that sounds like the kind of experience that you're looking for, you need to give it a try. And even if you're just casually puzzle curious with a bit of interest in the stars, this is a great way to spend your time. But that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the B-roll, and please let me know in the comments if you try any of these games out, and if you have any other recommendations for future videos. I very much appreciate that. It really helps me when I'm trying to decide what games to try out for these videos. Other than that, though, I'll just say thank you so much for watching, I hope you have a great day, and as always, happy gaming.